to be scared of the light. And I was swallowed by doubt. I'd forgotten what freedom was like. Puzzle pieces on the floor, they don't fit in anymore. I'm changing, I'm changing. When they ask you who I am, what I've done and where I've been, there's one thing I want you to say. Tell 'em I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day, now I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how I overcame, you can tell 'em I'm brave. Some days I come out on top, and some days I can't catch a break. But when the fire don't stop, I won't wish my troubles away. I've been down and I've been up, but if you look at me now, I'm moving into better, brighter days. Yeah, this hope is here to stay. There's only one thing you can say. Tell 'em I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day, now I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how I overcame, you can tell 'em I'm brave. We're gonna fight, gonna be alright. We're gonna fight together every step of the way. Tell 'em we're brave, see it on our face. We are bigger than anything coming our way. It's a new day, we're not afraid. So if anyone asks you how we overcame, you can tell 'em we're brave. You can tell 'em we're brave. You can tell 'em we're brave.
Everyone, and welcome to This Is My Brave, Stories from the Veteran Community. My name is Erin Gallagher, and I am the Executive Director of This Is My Brave. Thank you all for being with us tonight for this very special event as we shine a light on the stories of veterans who are living well and thriving while managing a mental health or substance use condition. In case you are joining us for the very first time tonight, I just wanted to let you know a little bit more information about Brave. This Is My Brave is a national nonprofit dedicated to mental health storytelling. The mission of This Is My Brave is to end the stigma associated with mental health and substance use conditions by shining a light on mental health stories that are expressed on stage in a creative way, such as through original song, spoken word poetry, personal essay, even stand-up comedy and dance. This Is My Brave empowers individuals like our veteran storytellers tonight to put their names and their faces to their personal stories of recovery from these conditions. For more information about This Is My Brave, please check out our website at thisismybrave.org. And you can also check out more information about the background of Brave in our playbill, which is linked in your chat. If you don't see the chat, pull that up because we're going to be doing a lot over there during the show tonight. We at This Is My Brave have wanted to do a virtual show for many years because we recognize the importance of shining a light on veteran mental health issues. This year, we're proud to present Volume 2 of what we hope to be many, many more shows to come. Tonight's show is made possible in part by a grant from Janssen Neuroscience. We're grateful for Janssen's support for this show and otherwise throughout the year. A study from SAMHSA suggests that only 50% of veterans who need mental health services actually seek it. We at Brave know that stigma is a huge barrier to treatment-seeking behavior. We also know that storytelling has the ability to break down stigma. That is why we are proud to present to you this evening this virtual veterans show to highlight the stories of individuals who have served this country honorably and who have stepped forward to share their personal stories of hope with all of you. We hope you find these stories from these men and women inspiring. And if you yourself are going through something or you love someone who is, we hope that you'll realize that you are not alone, that there is hope for your circumstances. Help is available. Recovery is achievable. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. We want you to use the chat function throughout tonight's show. We're getting ready to launch into a pre-recorded portion of tonight's event. So the stories that you'll hear have been pre-recorded, but our storytellers are here with us now live, and they're excited to see your reactions to their stories. So please chat a lot and let them know how you are liking what you're seeing, what you're hearing from them. We will follow tonight's show with a live panel discussion, so you will have a chance to hear directly from the storytellers and ask them questions about their presentations tonight. So please also in the chat drop any questions you might have or might come up during the show. You can also share that you're joining us for tonight's show and encourage others to join us as well. You can drop the link for the video that you see in the bar at the top, drop that into your socials and invite your friends to join us. You can share on social media also about the show. And please, if you do, use our hashtags, Storytelling Saves Lives, End the Stigma, and Live Brave. And also be sure to tag us at This Is My Brave. So now, without further ado, we are very proud to present This Is My Brave, Stories from the Veteran Community, Volume 2. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Victor Rodriguez Tafoya. I served the U.S. Marine Corps from 2003 to 2009, deployed to Iraq in 07 and 08. So I was trying to organize a set of stories to tell. I realized that there's one story that I was not focusing on, and it was not about what happened back then or what I experienced or stories that I remember, but a reality that me and other veterans live on an everyday basis, and that's mental health.
I seek dopamine, serotonin. I find anxiety, PTSD, ADD, ADHD, insomnia, depression.
Being diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression disorder. I've been trying to find different ways to make things easier for me, make my life a little more harmonious. It's hard that we need to be self-aware, but the people out there don't have that awareness, not self-awareness, or not awareness or for others. It's hard to work twice as hard to maintain a good mental health. As I was seeking resources to get a better leverage of what I was experiencing, I came across a program through Sacramento County, NAMI Sacramento to be exact. And the group, we discussed, at one point we discussed how there's a cycle that we all experience throughout the month where every 30 days, every 45 days, depending, we're going to go through a period of 3, 4, 5, 6 days of confusion, of a cloud, it almost feels like a flickering of a light bulb that, where my mind is just, in this case, speaking of me, it's just not working well. Those days are frustrating because people will try to reach out to me, my friends, people that I know, and I see the messages, but I have no energy, or honestly, sometimes not a desire to connect at the moment, just because of where I'm at mentally. I just can't.
The service is not just the only one that gives us all those conditions. Life does. Life struggles. So many more stay quiet and continue walking in the shadows. But hey, you're not alone.
When I joined the military, I was 18. I was nowhere close to getting to know myself, or knowing myself, or even accepting myself, put it that way. There was definitely a lot of tension that I was carrying due to the fact that my sexual orientation was something that we couldn't talk about. The don't ask, don't tell policy was in place. At one point, one Marine, while I was, on a mission loading a semi with 2 other Marines, he confronted me. He was a sergeant, I was a corporal at the time. He confronted me and questioned my looks, my hair, pretty much calling me out for my sexual orientation. He was trying to fight me. In the middle of Iraq is tense as it is, and in a situation like that, with someone that I couldn't respond to violently the way he was approaching me, it created a lot of tension that I had to suppress at the moment. And with time, it became a trigger of someone, in a position of authority, abusing their power to try to make themselves look good. Nowadays, I think it's one of my biggest triggers, being in a situation where someone is abusing their position, their power, and reacting emotionally. Just remember, everybody has a storm going through their mind at any point, and it's hard to navigate sometimes. These little guys make it easier for me, though. They definitely have empathy. They show care. Eventually, I learned their language, and it's great to see it.
My name is Lynn Geyser. I served in the Army National Guard on active duty from 1993 to 2004. During these years, I could tell you many stories while I'm in, but today I want to tell you about my struggles that challenged my life forever. Going from a victim to a survivor. We only have a few minutes to tell the story, so you will get to hear the brief view from a poem perspective. I name my poem, A Woman's Voice. A woman's voice. Did you hear her voice? A girl that grew up in an alcoholic, emotional, abusive family. Her father was supposed to be a role model, instead provided no positive guidance in her life. Her mother, expected to exhibit feminine strength, found herself voiceless, acting solely on her father's guidance. This little girl struggled to discover her identity, but found herself pushed deeper into her family's troubled history. The only friend, her only voice she had was her journal that she knew would not disappoint her and crush her dreams. She could put all her dreams and goals in this journal, where it empowered her and left her feeling like she mattered. Imagine a young girl yearning to escape her family toxic environment, only to plunge into a depression and isolation, concealing her true self. She desperately sought to escape what lacked the means of it as a young age, especially being 10. She was unaware of how to love herself due to the absence of such lessons in her surroundings. With no confidence, no direction, fate intervened. When the military recruiter visited her high school, without hesitation, she enlisted. Did you hear her voice? This woman, a soldier enlisted during high school, in search to find her purpose and her self-discovery. Spending a decade in both the National Guard and active duty military, she worked tirelessly to understand her true self. She was an excellent soldier. She earned awards. She worked tirelessly to understand her true self. She built relationships, but what she did not know and wasn't prepared for was what military sexual assault was. Assigned to a male infantry unit as a young single female, she became targeted, subject to relentless harassment and sexual assault by a trusted authority figure. She found herself abandoned to fight alone when her superior sexually assaulted her. This very person she trusted for safety had violated her body and soul. Struggling further, she was labeled as a liar and retaliated against her as a victim when she reported the incident. She was subject to months of harsh disciplinary action. Her phone was confiscated, her outside legal rights curtailed, and she was restricted regardless of medical struggles. Her assaulter faced it, no consequences. Instead, he gained privileges. Did you hear her voice? A woman that transitioned from an excellent soldier to a broken soldier, burdened with post-traumatic stress disorder, military sexual trauma, and other mental health challenges, along with physical issues. She wrestled with suicide thoughts, which put her into a deep internal depression, concealing her pain. She felt isolated, untrusted, and misunderstood, but she had no one to turn to. Others asked her how she was feeling, but she had to lie to protect herself and tell everyone she was fine. Fine doesn't mean fine. It means lost. It means deep into the thoughts of harming herself. It means who does she trust? Can you imagine being in a unit where every time you spoke, it was used against you? Or you had no choice but to bottle all those feelings up instead, because every time you spoke, you were given more discipline action against you. Did you hear her voice? This woman soldier became a veteran that felt she had nothing to live for. No one to hear her, listen to her. Instead, it was used against her. A woman veteran released from the military, not by medical board, which she should have happened, but by harsh punishments that followed her for years. She left the military with nothing. She feared the world, lost trust in others. What could she do? The only choice she was given was to fight back her benefits, her rights, her soul, and her voice. Her fight back allowed her to start telling her story. This wasn't an overnight recovery or just one fight, but 15 years of trial and struggles to discover her voice. She set herself aside while she took care of her family and everyone else around her. She avoided her feelings, stuffed them deep inside where she didn't have to confront them. Over time, she started getting angry. She started pulling away from others. She started getting into destructive behaviors. She fought herself inside when her life went downhill. She lost 2 careers, her military and being a marriage and family therapist, she became unemployed and she lost her purpose in the world. Did you hear her voice? She had many obstacles after she got out of the military, but this particular day changed her life forever. She found herself wandering aimlessly until she reached a riverbank, a place where she felt compelled to vanish. She felt she was a burden to others. All she wanted was the pain to go away. She got out of her car and slowly walked to the river with tears in her eyes. She sat at the end of the pier on the edge, waiting for God to tell her the direction to take, waiting for a sign to live. She still was a mother and a wife, but she did not see why life was important anymore. She just wanted the pain to go away. She sat there for hours until it got dark. In her mind, she thought no one would hear her. Just when her urges got stronger to disappear from Earth, someone spotted her from a distance. That individual got closer and was the one that changed her life forever. That individual told her not to worry and told her that one day her story will be important to save many lives. That individual told her, you may not feel it at this moment because the struggles you are facing, you will have others to believe in you, others that need you to walk the journey with them. This individual saved the life of this little girl, saved the life of this woman soldier, and saved the life of this woman veteran on many of the journeys that this woman faced. God sent her the message she needed that day to continue her journey of healing. Her voice of cry, her voice to want to live, her voice to want to be heard, her voice to express her pain inside and out. But her voice was heard inside, but not as much in the community. Until one day, she was given an opportunity to be something bigger than herself. She was invited to a fellowship, a women veteran outreach event, where she continued to change her life. Her journey, her direction, it still took a few years to develop what was in store for her. She kept trying to follow her passion and direction of the feelings God put her on the path for herself and for others. The more she was heard and recognized, the more she became strong. The more she valued herself and knew she deserved it, the more she knew who she was. She was strong enough to develop a voice that makes a difference. That difference started as a fellowship and developed into a nonprofit supporting military women. She went from a victim to a survivor. She fought for what she believed in. She had many obstacles to face, but she was strong. She was confident. She was persistent. And she found her voice. She made sure others heard her voice too. So did you hear her voice? Well, if you haven't, you did now. It's not just her voice. It's the voice of her sisters. It's the voice that women matter. It's the voice for the women that are struggling and haven't developed her voice yet. God told her not to fear to use her voice because her passion and dedication will help others find it too. My name is Lynn Geiser, and this is my Brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eduardo de la Torre, and I'd like to take you on a roller coaster ride of a journey through my life with PTSD. Now, I know what you're thinking. PTSD, that doesn't sound very funny or optimistic. But bear with me, and I'll show you that sometimes the darkest past can lead you to the brightest places. It all started on a fateful day on September 11th, 2001. I was just a college student from Houston, Texas, sitting in the financial aid at Texas A&M University, daydreaming about my future. But when I saw those TV screens showing those horrifying events that day, I decided to do something unexpected. I quit college to join the Army. And you can imagine my immigrant parents' dismay, having invested so much in my education. I'd done the whole nerdy thing, interning at MD Anderson, Cancer Center and all, but for some reason, maybe it's because I read too many Tom Clancy books, I just felt like there was a calling and I needed to go do something. So off I went to become a lab tech. I knew I wanted to volunteer, but I didn't know I could be what I could do, so I decided to be a lab tech. But somehow along that pathway, I ended up volunteering to go airborne. That's right. Me, the guy who's afraid of heights, I'm now training with Navy SEALs. And here's the thing, spoiler, I was not one of those fearless warriors. I was not one of those Navy SEALs that could do all those crazy things. But somehow I found myself in the home of the 82nd Airborne Division. And before I knew it, I was on my way to Iraq. Now, I remember my first jump in division. It was a brigade mass tactical jump. 3,500 paratroopers in the middle of the night, simulating airport seizures. That stuff was exciting to me. The fear was just everywhere. Everybody was scared. And the reason you're scared is because in airborne school, you jump in the soft, warm glow of about 1,200 feet. But in the 82nd, you plummet from 800 feet in the freezing night. So as the jump master yelled, 2 minutes, the plane started to shake like a soda can, like somebody's about to just open it up and let it explode. And sure enough, when the doors opened, out we went. One by one, like a thunderous roar. We're just going out screaming and doing all kinds of things. Jumping out of planes teaches you a lot about facing fear, but nothing can prepare you for the collateral damage of war. I became a medic in the 82nd, cleaning up the mess our infantry made. I was there during the surge, the most violent time in Iraq. I witnessed countless horrors. One of those memories still haunts me to this day. It was a mass casualty event in our tiny clinic, more casualties than we could handle. And amidst the chaos, I spotted this little boy, and he had this flesh wound on his leg. I saw blood running down his leg, so I thought to myself, I got to do something about it, and I grabbed my interpreter. I asked him, "Are you okay? What's going on?" My interpreter would talk to me, and he said, "No, the kid's not crying. He's fine. He's just really concerned about his mom." He and I both knew that we had just taken his mom to the morgue. These stories are both heart-wrenching and far too common. They're impossible to forget. When I returned home, I was haunted by guilt and loss. Several people in my unit, including our leader, took their own lives within months. I was one of the lucky ones, the functional ones, they could say. And then I met a girl who asked me a simple question. "Are you being all you can be?" I saw the toxicity in my life, and I realized I wasn't. Despite the tempting allure of dark habits like alcohol abuse, I kept the promise to my parents that I would go back to school. Today, I'm earning my MBA at Rice, and I'm functional. But these echoes still linger, and last year, another friend took his life because of PTSD. People ask me, why do I share this story? Because none of us are alone, and our stories should be heard. We need to learn from them so that others don't have to suffer in silence. Because I think together, we can overcome these dark times and find the light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you for listening. My name is Eduardo de la Torre, and this is My Brave.
A toast to life. I'm learning self-love. I'm learning how to trust in myself, in others, especially in the man above. There are times where I find it hard to believe. Does he even exist? with all the trials and tribulations he put me through, depression, anxiety, suicidal attempts, and PTSD too? When does it ever end? I thought family was supposed to protect you, love you, support you, motivate you. Instead, they turned a blind eye. Even the men who disrespected me were family too. They robbed me of my innocence before the age of 10. How is that fair? God can't be real. It happened for years by multiple men. It was like I was on a merry-go-round with nothing merry about it. More years go by of the same mental, verbal, and physical abuse. You're an idiot. Be quiet. You're so dumb. I started to believe them. I started to go numb. For 15 years, abused from every angle. Suddenly, a master at compartmentalizing. Unhealthy coping helped for a few years. This monster of hate inside of me continued to grow. Anger and resentment are the only feelings I know. I finally got away at the age of 19, and as cliche as it sounds, I answered my nation's call. I want to help others, defend my country, travel. I want to rid this burden and do it all. I escaped my childhood traumas just to go through MST. My father's wife called me talking about an emergency. I guess it's true when they say, when it rains, it pours. I begged doctors on the phone to tell me more. A few hours later, I was at my daddy's hospital door. Heart failure, lung failure, brain dead, or so the doctor said. But everyone knew the hospital made a mistake. It's been 9 years since you've been gone. I talk to you every day, especially when things go wrong. Thank you for always letting me know you're around and remind me that I'm not alone, even if I can't call you on the phone. When I hear you or see you in my dreams, it's a chance to be with you by any means. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to save you or buy you more time on this earth somehow. But I know you're doing it big in heaven. You better stay away from all those women. And when I look up in the sky on my patio, I scream out loud, I love you, Daddy-o. After we laid him to rest, down on my knees, I begged, Lord, give me a break. You've got to be kidding me. I just knew that was it. There couldn't be more. But God said, let's go ahead and make her marriage a war. That broke me. I couldn't win. And before I knew it, I ended up in the loony bin. Down on my knees, help me now more than ever, Lord. 90 days total in the psych ward. God showed me love, strength, courage in myself. He brought me out of the darkness, brought peace to my mental health. I could take care of my kids on my own. I even bonded with my 1-year-old for the first time since he came out the womb. Have since retired from the military too. Let's just say my civilian chapter gave me a new view, a different outlook in life. In my career, I found my passion in real estate. I even got me a realtor license plate. Residential homes to investment properties. I've even flipped a few houses. It felt like I won the lottery. I go to therapy every week. Shout out to Barbara. I've been able to heal and start my spiritual journey, not to mention making it to 30. I look forward to my new chapter of life, still working and processing my traumas. Despite all those trials and tribulations, I do believe God is real. He gave me strength through all life's dramas. My name is Carmela Hampton, and this is my Brave.
Hello. My name is Enrique, and I'm going to talk about PTSD. PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, and it happens when the stress reactions that are normal for all of us to experience after a traumatic event don't dissipate, they don't subside, and they interfere with daily living. Examples of traumatic events that can cause PTSD are assault, school shootings, and combat. 23 years ago, I joined the military. I willingly signed up. It wasn't a thing of, go to the Army or go to jail. I willingly signed up. And so one could argue, as opposed to someone who dealt with the school shooting, I kind of sort of chose PTSD. I mean, someone might say, like, dude, you're joining the Army. Like, it's a no-brainer. What did you expect? But then let's consider how we learn about combat or learn about war. I don't know about y'all, but I learned about war from G.I. Joe, Predator movies, and like the World War II books that my dad had laying around. PTSD starts after the author finishes his dissertation of the Battle of Midway. PTSD starts when the movie's done, the credits roll, and the audience has gone home. Like the first time I ever saw PTSD on a movie screen was actually part of the comic relief. 20 years ago this month, I left for Iraq. And when I signed up and when I left, no one was talking about PTSD. So if nobody's talking about it, then how the hell am I supposed to know about it? And so here I am. Here we are. We're here tonight because we didn't feel enough people were talking about it. And what we did hear, the stigmas that surround it, we didn't like. So we all agreed to take one for the team. We've agreed to jump on whatever grenade society throws at us for being up here and sharing. As for me, if what I share tonight helps somebody else out there, I'll take whatever negative consequences come my way as a fair trade. I would like to do a poem. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes you hear a song, you sometimes change the lyrics to make it fit. I'm a fan of Leonard Cohen. I'm a fan of the song Hallelujah. And so I decided to rewrite the lyrics. No, I'm not going to sing it. You know, put the earplugs away. This My Hallelujah, the original lyrics were written by Mr. Leonard Cohen. I received the order to march, and on the plane we were all aboard. But you don't care for stories of war, do you? Well, it went like this: death, blood, and IEDs. Always thinking the next one would get me. When I came home, I dropped to my knees and I prayed, hallelujah. I lost myself in the sand beneath my boots. I was always one of the first to see the gunfire from the roof. Yeah, the violence of my memories overthrow you. Well, I had the enemy in my crosshairs, and I pulled my trigger and I stared. And as the body fell, I uttered, hallelujah. Now, baby, I've been here before. PTSD kicking love out the door. I thought I was meant to be alone before I knew you. And though your love came like a solid marble arch, mine came like a destroyed and wrecked car. It was a cold and an absurd hallelujah. Now, baby, there was a time when you would let me know what's really going on below. But now, you'll never show me that again, will you? But I remember when things were good, and I could see the good in me too. Baby, I'm so sorry. Hallelujah. Now, maybe God's knocking on my door, but all I ever learned from war was to kill them before they kill you. Now, broken and alone in the night, and I see that I lost my way. Maybe there's still time that I can be saved. Lord, anyone, please help me. Hallelujah. Thank you.
Wow. I hope you enjoyed the show. Welcome back. That was amazing. I am so touched by all of the stories that everyone shared this evening, and I hope you all were too. I could see you chatting and giving all of the storytellers their due praise. And so just keep in mind that we are going to go into a live panel discussion in just a moment. So if you have questions, anything that's come up during the stories, drop them in the chat right now, and we'll try to do what we can to get to them before the night's over. So, but first, I just want to recognize that tonight on this virtual platform, our storytellers were able to shine a light on a topic that we don't talk enough about: veterans' mental health. So I want to invite you, actually, in the audience, everyone who's with us tonight, to, if you would be brave with us and comment or post a heart in the chat if you yourself are a veteran, or if you're someone who has faced a mental health challenge, or if you love a veteran who's faced a mental health challenge, or if you love someone else who has. Like to see those hearts coming in. I know that there's so many of you out there that know some of the things that were shared tonight by our storytellers, and you can relate to what they shared. I think it's important to know that none of us is alone in these circumstances. And thank you all for sharing your brave with us in the chat tonight. So if you've been inspired by what you've seen tonight and you'd like to support This Is My Brave as we continue our efforts to break down stigma of mental illness and substance use, please consider making a donation to This Is My Brave at thisismybrave.org. And if you'd like to stay connected, you can subscribe to our newsletter while you're there on the website to be among the first to learn about any of our new news that's coming up in our upcoming events, including information about the 2024 season, virtual shows, and live shows alike. And if you're inspired, maybe you want to consider coming out for other shows that we have coming up. So please watch for upcoming auditions there as well. We believe at This Is My Brave that storytelling saves lives. And the more we can shine a light on your stories, on stories like the ones that were shared tonight, the more we will know a world where we won't have to call it brave to talk openly about what we're going through. We'll simply call it talking. So our storytellers tonight, I'd like to welcome them to the stage or this room with us: Victor, Lynn, Eduardo, Carmela, Enrique. Thank you so much for joining us and for being here. In addition to our storytellers, I would like to welcome Dr. Jan Laughinghouse. Dr. Jan is a licensed clinical social worker. She's a board-approved clinical supervisor and a licensed addictions counselor. She's currently serving as the executive director at Capital Area Human Services in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She has over 22 years of experience in treatment of substance use disorders and has worked extensively with women, veterans, individuals with co-occurring disorders, those who've experienced trauma, chronic homelessness, and reentry populations. Dr. Jan, it is wonderful to have you here with us tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. It is an absolute honor to come back again this year, Erin. Thank you so much. And I am so moved by everything that our storytellers told us.
Yeah, I really, I'm going to start off with a couple questions that came to mind for me as the stories were going. Did Victor was he able to join us or is he still dealing with his technical difficulties? No, thumbs up, but no Victor. Well, I just wanted to say, I was watching the chat and I just wanted Victor to know that there was really great, exciting chat going on. And there was one comment that came through that said, "Thank you, Victor, for your service and your continued strength." And so I hope to get a chance to talk to him about his story. I loved the video that he created. That was so creative. I thought that was impressive. Lynn, I'm going in order. Also, I wanted to know Victor's dog's name. Wasn't he so cute, the dog? So we never got introduced to Victor's dog except just by his side. So, Lynn, will you tell us the name? I didn't hear, I think it was dropped in the chat, but tell us again the name of the organization that you've started for women veterans.
Hope for Veterans. That's the name of it.
Is it exclusively for women or is it for all veterans?
It's what we focused on is our military veterans, our spouses, our active duty retirees, and our National Guard. So all military women.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I just loved your repetition of Do You Hear Her Voice and just how that transformed throughout your poem. That was really beautiful. And so thank you so much for sharing that. One person said while your story was sharing, Lynn, I don't know if you saw, that brave only scratches the surface. Thank you for your story, Lynn. That's one thing that came through. So Eduardo, I loved your wow. And I think for some of us, it feels a little uncomfortable to laugh with you, but I love how you infused humor into your story. Do you get to share that particular story very often, or is this the first time you've shared it with an audience?
Well, that's the first time I've shared it as a story combined like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the issue when people say, "Oh, tell me an army story, tell me a military story," you kind of have to tread the line between not being too dark and making people laugh, because people want to hear about some of the fun stuff too.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. But I think it's important to remind people of the gravitas behind it too.
Yeah. I think we all felt that. Your story was so touching. So thank you. And I really love the question that you were asked, are you being all you can be? Was that like a light going off, like right when that question was asked of you? Or did you sit on that for a while to really, because it sounds like it was transformational.
Well, it was one of those moments in my military career where I was like, okay, I had literally asked that, I was asked that, and I'm looking at my career like, well, I'm getting promoted, but I'm stagnating and it's taking more time and yada, yada, yada. And one of the big things for me was I joined because of 9/11. And at the time when I was getting it, I was already at the schoolhouse training new recruits, and they didn't even remember 9/11. So it was becoming a different military for me. And so I realized, you know what? I promised my parents I'd go back to school and finish one day. So I did. And then continued on.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thanks for reflecting on all of that with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for asking.
Carmela, you mentioned therapy, and I think that you were the first person to talk about therapy. Maybe not. Maybe not. Actually, there might have been one other. But was that a hard thing for you to embark upon? Like the first time you dialed the phone to a therapist, what was that like for you?
Oh yeah, it wasn't planned. I didn't plan to go to therapy. A friend of mine dragged me to therapy.
Oh,
And
good
then
friend.
yeah, she's yeah. And then after that, I actually had a lot of difficulties with getting into therapy. Uh I've tried maybe like 5 or 6 times and I was denied every time for different reasons. And then finally, what actually got me into therapy was I broke down in the clinic. And it was in front of mental health commander and my commander. And that's really how I got into therapy. But I'm glad and I'm happy that it happened, even if I didn't see the light at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good to know that that's been positive for you in your career, and I feel like you got to see some of your supporters because suddenly the comments from the comment section were popping up on your screen. So, Enrique, thanks for joining us. And just for those of you who may not know, Enrique's story was first shared at our 2023. Was it this past spring, Enrique? Uh-oh, you're muted, I think. Oh, I can't hear you now. but I will say it was This Is My Brave College Edition at the University of South Florida. So you saw Enrique's story presented on the stage, and behind him were a number of other college students who were there to share their story as well. So that was a really cool show. So it's fun to be able to feature his story again as an encore performance tonight. So you could see what a live performance looks like as well, for those of you who maybe never been to a Brave show. So Enrique, you talk about PTSD in your piece, and I just love what you did with the song, just changing the lyrics around. Is that something you do often? Rewrite song lyrics? Uh-oh. Still no. Okay, we'll come back, Enrique. I promise we'll give you a chance to talk. If you can fiddle with that in the background and see what comes up. But I did, Dr. Jan, I know that a lot of people tonight mentioned PTSD. And I know that you've, in your career, you've addressed trauma clinically with patients. What is the biggest hurdle? I know PTSD, I think it's what we say. I don't think that we really all clearly understand it if we haven't experienced it ourselves. I love that Enrique pointed out that life, or somebody, maybe it wasn't Enrique, but life can offer you PTSD, although experience in the military certainly also does result in this for many people. But can you talk a little bit about specifically what PTSD is, add on to what Enrique featured in his piece? Uh-oh.
No, I just forgot to unmute.
Okay, there you are.
So sure. I think I love the way Enrique explained it, and it is exactly what he said. It's the best way to explain that when someone has had a trauma, be it an illness, being a victim of violence, witnessing violence, a natural disaster, combat, something of that nature. And there is a natural response that we have to trauma. Something happens in our brain, chemicals change in our bodies, and there's a stress response. Well, when that threat goes away, many times people will go back to normal. And as a therapist, when I say normal, I'm just saying typical reactions is what I mean, because we all know normal is a setting on the washing machine, right?
That's right.
When we go back to typical ways that we behave, what's typical for us. But when we have PTSD, there are times that people will actually flash back, and that trauma that takes us to there and then instead of here and now.
Yeah.
So the same emotions, the same fears, you experience it even without the presence of the threat. And so that's what's so difficult for people to understand. It continues to haunt you, and it impacts your activities of daily living. And if people haven't experienced it, and they haven't seen it, they oftentimes don't understand it. And sometimes, I mean, a lot of times, and I'm sure our veterans have experienced this too. If they have talked about having the diagnosis, people throw it around willy-nilly, right? Like he's saying that I have the sniffles, everything's, oh my God, I had a bad meal at Chipotle and now I have PTSD when I see the sign. No, you do not. Right? You have learned taste aversion or something else that is innocuous, but you do not have PTSD. So it is something that is a very serious disorder, and it can be something that impacts the lives greatly of the people who have the disorder and the people around them, because it impacts the way that they move through the world. So that it means the way that they navigate relationships at work, at home, their social life, their personal life. So.
Well, really quick before we move on to the questions that are coming in for the storytellers, I do want to ask you if somebody right now in the audience is feeling overwhelmed by those sorts of feelings that maybe that hasn't yet been diagnosed as PTSD, but what you just described resonates with them, what would be the best first step or next step for them? How can they help find relief?
The best thing that I would say is to reach out and seek help, because it is not something that you are going to navigate appropriately on your own. You may find temporary distractions by using alcohol, other substances, or doing things that are that in the moment will take you out of that space, that negative headspace, but will create other problems for you. If you're a veteran, call 988 and press 1. There's someone who can help you on the Veterans Crisis Line. If you're not a veteran, just dial 988 and tell someone that you need help. And those trained counselors will actually direct you to resources that are there for you locally, wherever you are.
Thank you so much for that information. Now, I'm going to see if I can just I'm going to see. It's a show, so I'm clicking it and hoping. Look, there's a question from Sarah, and it says, how, I'm guessing this is directed at anyone. So if you think you have the answer for this, let me know. Actually, we haven't got a chance to hear from Victor yet. So Victor, we might put you on the spot, but do you have any thoughts on this question? How do you deal or cope with stigma from people in your life? Now, I don't know if that's something that you've experienced personally, Victor, and if you have any thoughts on that for Sarah. Well, it's really, do you have a microphone, Victor? It's kind of hard to hear you right now. We might have to ask you to mute until, yeah. Sorry about that, Victor. Yeah, it's really hard to hear you right now. So I'm going to pass the question off to somebody else while you tinker over there and hopefully get that resolved. Anybody else faced stigma from close family and friends or people around you? And how is, what do you do to deal with that? Lynn, you're nodding your head. So I'm wondering if you're having thoughts on that particular question.
It's been a history of dealing and coping with stigma with people in my, in your life. First of all, PTSD is a stigma in general. You have it, you can't have guns, or, you have destructive behaviors. But then it's like even becoming an advocate of the stigma of, being a counselor or being an advocate for the community. If you have PTSD, how can you do that? So there's a lot of pieces, but how do I cope with it? Well, lately I have done a lot of events to break the stigma and telling my story.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've really, it was a long journey for you, Lynn, but you've found your voice, and I think that's incredible. And so we're glad that you shared it with us here tonight. Anybody else have thoughts on stigma? Any tricks of the trade? How to address that with your circles? Eduardo, you look like you've got some thoughts.
Well, yeah, I try to normalize it, actually. I joke about it all the time. I'm like, oh, I gotta go to therapy. This is gonna send me to therapy, or like something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think there's multiple stigmas here. Like, one, what is it like to be a veteran? Two, what is it like to live with PTSD? And three, what is it like to go to therapy? And so, like, within that scope, I think teasing each one of them out is important. But in general, I think just normalizing the veteran experience in terms of, hey, I live with PTSD. Sometimes it looks functional, sometimes it doesn't. But you got to see a therapist, and that's part of it.
Go ahead, Jan.
I'd just like to add that if anyone hasn't figured out how to do this, Sarah, what I have learned is that if they are true friends, if they're your family, if they're your partners, and if they're coworkers who like you, these are people who actually love you and like you. And if they are exhibiting any stigma, it really comes from their lack of knowledge. And a really good thing to do when you are faced with stigma is to provide education. And that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, not only just educating the person about their diagnosis and what the triggers are and what they can do to help themselves, but also bringing their family in, bringing them in for support so that they can understand too. And so that they can learn strategies to come alongside and to help. But what I would like for you to remember is that if folks really love you, family, friends, or what have you, that what they're doing and saying comes out of a place of not knowing, not from any nefarious intent. You kind of feel attacked when it happens, but if you can remember that and then just slip into, being able to, and you can use humor like Eduardo does, or, you can just say, listen, this is how it is, or give them some resources.
Enrique, did you have another thought? It's, I think the mic, we still can't hear you. Shoot. We're going to have to set up a separate interview because I think it looks like you have so much good stuff to say. So I'm going to hide that question. Please note, folks, if you're still in the chat with us, oh, wait. I see another one coming in. You all here, hold on. I saw it and then I lost it.
Do you want us to read it?
Let me take this one out. This is from here. There we go. So this kind of tags right onto that last statement. So, you have friends and family who don't understand the stigma, but, you can help educate them. Like Dr. Jan said, Eduardo, you can break down the ideas that this is something we can't talk about. He does that through humor. But then how can others who are around you support you? As you've broken down the stigma, what is most helpful in terms of the support that your friends and family can offer? This person asked, do you want them to be direct by asking you how you're doing? Or are there indirect ways that your friends and family and loved ones can offer you support through other channels? Carmela, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, I like for my friends and family to be direct with it. Just ask me, hey, are you doing okay today? What's going on? And I tend to always say, I'm good, I'm fine. And so for me, to support me, just keep asking. Don't let me give you that answer, I'm fine or I'm okay, because something's wrong. So don't let it go. Just keep asking. And eventually I'll get there with you. And then I think another thing that's really important for me is if I give you boundaries and I tell you, if I'm telling you I don't want to talk about it, it's different from when I'm saying I'm fine, I'm okay. Then I really don't want to talk about it and try not to dig too much.
Wow, that's really good. That's really good. Anyone else have thoughts? Go ahead, Eduardo.
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned is there's a tendency for us to say, I'm okay. So even when people ask, we're like, I'm okay. And I recently learned, instead of asking, are people okay, ask them where their energy is. And then frame it across two matrices, meaning, is it positive or negative? And is it high or low? And within that, you start to kind of pick people out to see how they're feeling, right? If you're high energy and it's negative, that means you're really stressed and anxiety ridden, right? But if it's low energy, it's different, right? And same thing, if it's positive, maybe it's just positive and high energy. You're just excited and anxious about something, but in a positive way. So I think there's more. I think we have a tendency to ask generalized questions, and those are, how are you? And because traditionally they're used as hellos in society, we don't really want to answer more than, I'm okay. But when we start asking more nuanced questions like, hey, how's your energy? I think that could be more useful in supporting not just the people with PTSD, but just people in general.
I love that. That pushes right through, the quick answers and gets right into a more authentic conversation. You had me thinking, like, I was thinking back to, it just has me thinking, like, that's an interesting question. I'm going to use that for everyone, really. That's an amazing thought.
Erin, can I add one more thing?
Yes, please.
I just thought about it as Eduardo was talking.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that me and my circle, what we do is, let's say we're having a frustrated day or a frustrating day, we'll call each other up. But the first question is, do you have the mental capacity to listen to my drama? And so that is, I've, oh my gosh, it's a lifesaver for me and my friends, because literally we'll say, yes, I have it, go. Or, you know what, not today, but try again tomorrow. And it's an understanding across the board, and nobody gets their feelings hurt.
I love that. These are practical answers. I love this. I hope people are taking notes at home. This is amazing. All right, Victor, let's check in with you real quick.
How are you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Here you are. Yes. Okay. First, most important question. What is the name of your dog?
I have two of them. One is Nico, and the other one is Peluche.
Nice.
And the one in the video is actually Nico.
Nico, nice. All right. Well, did you have any thoughts on how friends and family can check in with you and support you? Any tricks that work for you and those in your life?
I think I've been on a learning curve, trying to understand how I can best, they can best approach me. And what I've heard right now, about, how's your energy, I think that works really well, and it makes sense. Because automatically, like it was mentioned, I tend to say, oh, I'm fine, oh, I'm okay. But I just go back in my dark. I just go back, in the zone. I think I've learned to swim alone to where, like, I'm fine, but I keep swimming like Dory. But definitely, have I think that the training part to friends and family is something that I need to put into consideration. Maybe take the time and let them know, hey, there's going to be days where I'm not okay, and your best approach to me will be this way, so I can be okay, and depending how I'm going to answer. And I've been learning, honestly. I've been dealing with this for the past, the heavy part of it for the past 3 years. In the past month or so, it's been a little bit challenging. So, uh, I'll definitely take this consideration. I've been in touch with another veteran of mine, a friend of mine, a veteran, checking in. How you doing? What's going on? How you feeling today? He does tell me, like, how are you doing today? What's in your mind? What are you putting that energy at? And it really connected with what the other mentioned. It has been guiding me into putting my energy or my frustration into something else, or push me out of bed, or push me out of my bed, out of my room, which is, it's helpful. Somewhere on social media, I saw a video about being a complicated plant, a little bit of sun, and I'm feeling much better. So, yeah, definitely a learning curve so far.
That's great. It just reminded me of the part of your piece, the thing that you learned from your affiliation with the NAMI chapter. Dr. Jan, I don't know if you remember Victor saying the part about when you're living, I think, is it with PTSD, Victor, that you may have stretches like there, you may cycles where every month or so there are darker days. Lynn seems to have resonated with that, where it goes kind of into a lull, and maybe you can come out of it for a while, but that sometimes you do return into that, and it can happen on a regular cycle. Is that something that you can tell us a little bit more about?
Well, yeah, with those types of disorders that affect mood, the moods are labile, so it means that they can go up and down. So, um, and I love the fact that Victor said part of the education that you can do is to let people know when, how your spiritual condition is. That's one of the things that I'll do, because I do deal with a lot of people who have substance use disorders and are in recovery. And so we talk about spiritual condition, It doesn't have to be about religion, but about your spirit and how you are today. And I'll just say, I'll walk up to them and say, spiritual condition check. And, and they know what to, a lot of like what Carmela said, and a lot of what Eduardo said, it was just another way to ask people how they're really doing. And I agree, Eduardo, a lot of times when we are asking people, how you doing? We are walking past and we're not waiting to hear the answer. Right. And so, we just got to be more mindful of those things. But the labile moves, the ups and downs, yes, that's typical.
I had a question that just reminded me, because Carmela said that she, went to therapy because a friend intervened and sort of walked with her on that route until she got to where she needed to be. But Lynn, you referenced how a person in your life became this pivotal person who really moved you out of a space of darkness and on a path towards light. And do you stay in touch with that person, or was it just somebody who came in and did what they needed to do, and then?
Yes and no,
Okay.
because it continues. It was like the stepping stone of opening up for the first time, and then after that, that's where we created, when I moved here to Florida, that's when we created like the sister support and things like that. It just continued to flow easier, I guess, to have that support for me to continue, and the sisters have the support too, so it helped out a little bit on that end. So it was just a starting moving point to get out of that stuck moment in your life that you just couldn't move forward.
Yeah. So I mean, the investment of friends and family seems like, from the stories you've told, is vitally important. So what might you all say to someone who is a friend or family member of a veteran who may seem stuck at this very moment, and maybe they think, well, I don't want to intervene, I don't want to intrude, but what would be your advice to somebody who may be seeing a friend right now who is not like themselves, and maybe they're noticing that? Is there something that you can recommend that they could do to help, or what would you recommend to someone like that who's observing that in their veteran friend or family member?
What I've recognized, and most of the things I've worked with a lot, even with my background too, is that a lot of our women would call, and the guilt would come, the PTS would become. But as I keep saying to even not just my sisters, but my brothers and everybody around me, that it's okay. I have text, I have phone, I'm here for you, and I just continue. I'm here for you, and there's always support out there. There's always counselors, and then usually what we do is we do classes where there's counselors. So there's always, or somewhere close there, there's always an additional support for the people that we work with or connect with.
I would also add to what Lynn said, go with them. If they're comfortable enough and if you guys are close enough, go with them, because that's what got me started. My friend literally dragged me through the clinic, because we both worked at the clinic, and then she sat there with me, and I felt safe because I had someone that I knew next to me while I was talking and whatnot. So go with them if you can.
That's again, such a great practical tip. And it does kind of help to connect the dots. Like, somebody could say, yeah, I'll go, I'll do it. But that could be a quick answer, like, I'm fine, right? And that may be, what holds people back. Maybe, having somebody with them helps them feel more strong to do this first step.
And with that same idea, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
With that same idea, I think asking someone, "Hey, can I go with you, or do you want me to be next to you?" I feel like it's like not the wrong approach, but we might tend to be like, "Oh no, I'll be okay." Well, at least I do that. I'll take care of it. I think what works for me is, let's go. What time are you going? I'll be there. It's kind of like more in an active. It might seem intrusive, but it prevents me personally
from having to say, "Oh, it's okay, I'll be fine. I don't want to bother." uh, I feel more welcome when somebody's just very direct with me. I'll be there with you.
That's great. Eduardo, you have any thoughts on that any further?
I did. I wanted to say that from my perspective, like I think if you want to really encourage somebody, you got to get their mindset to think in the terms of I want to get better. Because I've met several people who struggle with this, and that's part of the PTSD. There's this self punishment. That's part of the thing I think we need to discuss. Like a lot of veterans have this survival guilt where they don't seek information, they don't seek help primarily because we've been trained to be self sufficient and self reliant. And there's this survival guilt that comes with it where we're punishing ourselves. And one of the things I think to ask veterans is, what did you sacrifice for? Like imagine what you fought for and enjoy that.
Mm.
um,
Hmm.
because I feel like we all sacrifice something, and then not to enjoy it now seems like, what'd you do your sacrifice for? Um, that and the growth mindset, and I can't stress that one enough because I tell people all the time, this is my little silly speech, that what separates us humans from most things is our ability to imagine, and to imagine things that aren't real and make them real, whether it's like creating an iPhone or anything else. But one of the primary things is we can imagine ourselves in a better state and then
Mm.
become that. And that's really powerful, I think. And so having the imagination to see yourself in a better place is the first step towards having that growth mindset. And I say this because sometimes when you are in this PTSD darkness, you can't even see that. Um, and so that's where I'd like to, if you want to support people, remind them of what they are capable and that they can grow.
That's
Yes,
amazing.
yes. Piggyback off of that, it's funny how he mentioned the growth and everything. I find when I hear that, I think of I got to find my purpose, I got to find my identity again, or I got to find a something that keeps me going. Is really what I when I hear that when he said that.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting. Dr. Jan, did you have anything to add to that? Because I felt like you were reacting to that.
No, I was just vibing with everybody. I
Yeah,
mean, they have this thing by the tail, man. They are junior therapists.
right.
But I would like to say this though, because something that Eduardo said really resonated with me because I worked with veterans for many years, and we talk about PTSD, and the panel has done a wonderful job of explaining how to come forward, different ways. But PTSD is not the only thing that our veterans deal with. And I don't want any veteran to disqualify themselves from seeking help because they say, oh, I don't have these issues. Every year, over 200,000 servicemen and women come out of active duty and they return to civilian life.
Mhm.
And anywhere from half to 72% of them are experiencing high levels of stress. And it is that transition back to civilian life that we cannot even understand why it would be big. Oh, they're going home. This is wonderful, right? You're coming home. Well, it's stressful to the family that you're returning to, too, right? You have to reorient yourself. You have psychosocial stressors that cut across your employment, your finances, your health, your housing. Everything is different. Also, there is a culture in the military. And now you have culture shock because you're coming back to civilian life, right? It's this collectivism that you have, and we work as a unit, right? In the military, everybody, we got one mind and we work together. Everybody has a role. And in society, particularly Western culture, we're very individualistic. Everybody, you get yours, I get mine, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so all of that whole paradigm shift and all of that is extremely difficult. And it's compounded by the fact, and this is where Eduardo tickled something in my brain, that most of the veterans will not even access benefit services and resources. Many of them don't feel that they are worthy of getting the resources either. Now, I worked with veterans long ago, like 20 something years ago. I started working with them. So I still had World War II veterans, Vietnam vets, and they were saying things like it was welfare,
Mhm.
and I'm a social worker, so I had to do a reframe, very much like Eduardo was saying. I was like, no, you gave your time, and this is what you get. This is a
Mhm.
benefit, right?
Mhm.
And the other thing is too is that people would see folks who had lost limbs, lost their sights. My father has a Purple Heart. He was burned severely when he was in the army, and so other people saw, they would say, well, my wounds are invisible, and
Mhm.
I don't deserve that. I'll leave it for somebody else who needs it more. And so I think Aaron referenced it in the beginning about half of the veterans who need mental health treatment do not seek it. And if the veteran has a substance use disorder, 90% of them do not
Wow.
seek treatment. So their
Mhm.
family, friends, and loved ones see their veterans suffering in silence. And what
Mhm.
I want to say to you is if you are having adjustment issues, join the world's biggest support group, and that is all of your veteran, all of your veteran fellows. They
Mhm.
all had adjustment issues. And so I just want to tell you to seek help, and you do deserve it.
Thank you. Wow. Just that was such an incredible point to highlight. Thank you, Dr. Jan. Lynn, it looks like that was resonating with you.
Yes, yes. When I got out, there was a lot of struggle, a lot of pain. Did not want to do anything, no benefits, no nothing. It took me 15 years, like I said in the poem, to just say, I'm a veteran, I deserve it. And so, and if we see this every day, you see this every day, and not just the women I work with or I'm the sisters, but the brothers and everybody. And especially the stigma, that is the top of it. It's very strong still.
Well, I'm sorry that Enrique had some troubles staying with us, because I would know he's an incredibly thoughtful person and really insightful when it comes to these topics. But before we get to our final point with all of you, I did want to ask, because it seems like you all are doing so well right now in this moment, and I understand that this is not like a one and done. We've closed the door. We're all kind of doing what we can to manage. But I was wondering what each of you, maybe if you have a tool or a practice or a hobby or something that helps you stay well or helps you kind of get your wellness restored. Would each of you be willing to share, or any of you be willing to share what that is for you? We can start. Yeah, Eduardo.
um, well, I think one of the things is I've learned to I try to learn how my PTSD manifests. And by doing that, like I know when I'm high energy, I need to exercise. If I'm low energy, I didn't eat well. And then my positivity and negativity is affected by whether or not I talk to people. So that's one of the things I've learned to kind of learn how your PTSD manifests so that you can figure out kind of what things to navigate with that. Um, I try to not isolate myself too much because it could go to negative places, but oftentimes work requires that to work on your
Mhm.
own. So there's this balance you have to keep. But I recommend like figuring out how your PTSD manifests first to then tackle it accordingly. And then therapy has come a long way. I really feel like people don't give that enough credit, whether you're doing cognitive behavioral therapy or EMDR. Like there's some really good techniques and therapies out there now for PTSD. So I think that needs to be a regular part of your routine. But dealing with this, I think, honestly, is a holistic approach. Like, you can't say, oh, I'm gonna do one thing. It's like a lifestyle at this point.
That's great. It sounds like you have such mindfulness. Like you've really taken some time to connect with what works, what doesn't work, how, that. So it just to hear you describe these ins and outs, I think is really, that's such an important tool in and of itself, is just connecting and following, like, oh, I'm feeling down and sad, so I must, I don't have the energy. So what can I do to get that energy back? Or that's amazing.
And I mean, I think this is one of the the crux of some of this is that I appear very functional. And so one of the problems with that is that even my partner's like, hey, how do you don't have PTSD, so and then I remind her. But that's the reality of it, that it's not like it's the end of a journey, and I don't think it's ever going to be the end of a journey. It's just one of these things where I have to live and deal with and navigate it.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it's definitely everyday maintenance.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, everyday maintenance. I recently learned about TMC, and I've been looking for a place to try it and see how this process might work and ease a little bit my anxiety, maybe my PTSD. Maybe I'll be able to sleep more. But definitely investing time in research of my own symptoms to see what's out there, and then bring it up to my doctor, bring it up to my physician, my psychologist. Sometimes even making my own calls, just because, again, it's a daily maintenance of my own mechanism.
And is it TMS? Is that what you're looking into, Victor?
I'm sorry, yes, TMS.
TMS, yeah.
Transcranial magnetic stimulation.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there are techniques out there that Dr. Jan, you want to touch on some of the therapies that have been helpful to some folks have found really helpful. A few have been mentioned here. Can you rattle a few off?
Yeah, I think the ones that we hear most often are cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, the eye movement desensitization that folks talk about, and those are some of the main ones. Therapy as Eduardo has said, has come a long way, and so it depends on the therapist and what their theoretical orientation is, and how your symptoms manifest. To what would work best for you. So some of the main ones that they talked about with PTSD have already been mentioned.
Great. Lynn.
Sorry, can I just add one
go
thing?
ahead, Eduardo. Yes.
Dr. Jan, I think you hit a really important point. Like, finding a good therapist is really key to this. Like, I know early on in my journey, like, I was like, they don't care. But then you find somebody else. You can't just quit either. Like, and that's the thing, like, it has been a journey, and I've gone through many therapists, and I've gone through some that I'm like, why did I even stay with that therapist? So there's another therapist where I'm like, dang, I have to move. And you know what I mean? Like, I really regret leaving, but don't stick to like the one therapist. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before, that going to therapy is like dating, and if you don't gel with that person, that's totally fine. Like, not everybody can be your best friend. Everybody can be your therapist.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Therapists have different personalities, different education and training, But I will tell you this: find one who treats you with respect and who listens to you. They can have more degrees than a thermometer. But if they cannot connect with you, let it burn. Go find someone else. So I agree with you. It's the same thing. But if you find someone that can connect to you and form that therapeutic alliance and can become a partner in your wellness journey, it is wonderful. It's magic.
Amazing. Okay, Lynn, any techniques that you use that you find helpful?
Yes. Well, first of all, my physical, because I have physical and, mental. My physical, it kind of manages. The reason why I say that is because when I have physical issues, the mental kind of hits hard too. You're the chiropractor, the massage therapist, the acupuncture, nature walks, even just being outside and stuff, and then being able to know myself, of course, manage it. There are days that we hide and just like, hey, I don't want to, I'm just having a rough day. And, we're always in pain or whatever. But I have gone see counselors. I've lots of counselors, and maybe it's a little more difficult because I was a marriage and family therapist for a while. And kind of that one. So I'm more like kind of I've had therapists that will sit and I can vent, which is great, but it's not really doing me any good. And then I've got therapists that I've fired in the past. So there's a lot of different, like you said before. I actually have a friend who is a clinical counselor who actually has got me to the point where everything was anxiety driven, and she finally got me to the a management. And it's a little bit wicked for this week because it's Veterans Week, but you could tell that the speaking is faster, but the management of what I do, and being able to take it, I know that I can't do more than one thing a day, or I have to have a 3-day recovery, or it really depends. You just got to really know yourself. And if I went to start at the nonprofit prior to the nonprofit, I literally was not getting out of bed. I literally was isolated and didn't want to be here. And so it kind of gave me a purpose. So wasn't just about like a being, hey, there's a nonprofit here. It really was something that saved me, gave me a purpose and an identity again to move forward and be an advocate there.
That's amazing. Yeah. Carmela, what about you? Besides calling up your friends and seeing if they can listen to your drama, what else do you do to stay well along your journey?
I do a lot of trial and error. I found out that if I have a schedule to follow, that I start feeling better. Otherwise, I'm in the bed all day and I'm trying to sleep all day. So I've been going to the gym a lot, and I've been journaling a lot, which has been a really good release for me when I'm feeling way too much anxiety, or the depression kicks in. And I try to socialize as much as I don't want to socialize. I try to force myself to socialize so that I don't go into that isolation. And I mean, what better way than to do it through my real estate stuff? So it's all, yeah, it's all encompassing. And just like Lynn was saying, real estate gave me a purpose again. When you're in the military, you belong to a command, and the command has a mission. And then you're a civilian, and then now you don't necessarily have a mission. So I got into real estate, and real estate gave me a purpose. And one thing I used to say, like, I'm living for my kids, or for my family. My family is the reason. And I had a therapist kind of rock my world a little bit. And she said, you can't say that. You can't put that on your kids. It's not up to them. It has to be for you. And so when real estate came along, that became my purpose. And now I understand what she was saying. Because at first I kind of took offense to it. I was like, no, I'm living for my kids. But I get it. I get it now. I get it now. So yeah.
Well, this has been, I feel like we could go on, and maybe we should just do this monthly, and then we could. So, but before we wrap up our evening, I just wanted to give each of you an opportunity to say one last word. If you have one last message that you want to share, a takeaway that you hope folks get from our time here tonight. I am going to go in order through the storytellers, and I see Victor first. Victor, do you have any closing thoughts for the folks out there who are watching?
And that's very, not just for veterans, but humanity. We're all going through something. We all have experienced something. We all had some sort of traumas. And put your shoes on somebody else's life for a second before you do a specific approach. Having empathy and being cautious on how you speak with someone can go a long way. Or a simple "How are you doing?" before you ask or demand something. How's your day? How are you doing? A simple touch about having care for somebody else goes a long way.
Yeah, that's a human message, really. I mean, and of course, would also resonate with veterans in our lives. So thanks for that, Victor. Eduardo, last thoughts for our audience tonight.
I can't stress enough the importance, I think, of a growth mindset and having the imagination to see who you want to be. I think losing sight of that is really sad, and I hope people can remember how to imagine and see themselves in a different way.
That's great, Eduardo. Thank you. Lynn, any last thoughts from you?
I guess the overall piece would be just, to find, be able to manage, get through the day, and have that support next to you, but also to maybe find your purpose and your identity, because it really goes a long ways on making you be able to feel good about yourself and your confidence in yourself. And that kind of really goes a long ways, but even with mental health and physical issues.
Amazing. Thank you. Carmela, how about you?
Sorry. I don't know why I got emotional at the end of this.
Oh, of course.
Sorry. Just remember to make short-term goals. It doesn't have to be long-term. You don't have to look too far in the future. Get through the day. In basic, we used to say chow to chow, right? We just got to get chow to chow. And kind of similar to the day, like I'm going to get out of bed today. I am going to take a shower today. I am going to leave the house today. Just short goals, so that you don't stress yourself out. And then the long-term goals, they'll come. You're not alone. Just remember that.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And thanks for being vulnerable and sharing a little bit of your emotions there. That was really sweet. Dr. Jan, can we leave the last word to you?
Oh, what an honor. I just want to tell you, same girl, same to Carmela. I am just very full right now and my eyes are watering. I don't want to leave y'all. Y'all have just given me so much, what you are walking and living epistles, right? People can read you and they see that hope is real and recovery is real. And what I want to say to people who still might be suffering is that pain is inevitable. We all go through pain, but your suffering is totally unnecessary. Seek help, reach out.
Thank you so much, everyone. Your stories were so powerful. Your testimonies here tonight, this conversation, so incredibly powerful. And I think so many good nuggets of information that you've shared. Thank you so much for being so thoughtful in our discussion tonight and for being brave and sharing your story to set an example. And I hope that those who are watching will take some time this weekend to find other ways to honor our veterans, as tomorrow is Veterans Day. And it sounds like there's lots of opportunities to do that in cities around the country. So if you want to check out some resources in your area and go do your part to honor and remember our veterans and the service that they've offered us. Thank you all so much for everything that you've done tonight and for your service and for being here with us. And audience, we're so glad to have you with us tonight. And we hope to see you again at our next virtual show. Of course, don't forget, you can check out where to find out more information. You can check out thisismybrave.org and see what events we have coming up in the future. So you can find out other ways to get involved with us. Thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.